You've seen it happen right in front of your eyes. Someone hurts you, betrays your trust, twists your words until you can barely recognize them anymore. And then, almost like magic, they become the victim. Their eyes soften, their voice trembles just enough, and suddenly you're the one apologizing. You're the one who feels guilty. You walk away from the conversation questioning your own memory, your own perception, wondering if maybe you really are the problem. And here's the thing that keeps you up at night. They looked so genuine, so hurt, so innocent. How do they do that? How do manipulators always manage to wear the mask of the wounded when they're the ones holding the knife? The answer lives in a place most of us don't want to look. Because to understand why manipulators act innocent, we have to understand something uncomfortable about human nature itself. We have to recognize that innocence isn't just a state of being, it's a weapon, and some people have learned to wield it with devastating precision. They've discovered that in a world where everyone wants to be seen as good, the person who appears most victimized often gets the most protection. It's not conscious for all of them. Some manipulators don't wake up twirling imaginary mustaches, plotting your emotional destruction. Many of them genuinely believe their own performance. They've told the story of their innocence so many times that it's become their truth. Think about how the brain works for a moment. Our minds are not designed to hold contradictory self-images. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort we feel when our actions don't align with our self-perception. For most people, when we do something wrong, we feel that discomfort. We sit with the guilt. We make amends. But manipulators have found a shortcut around this entire system. Instead of changing their behavior to match their self-image as a good person, they change the narrative. They rewrite history in real time, casting themselves as the protagonist who's been wronged, misunderstood, unfairly accused. And because our brains desperately want internal consistency, once they've reframed the story, they believe it. They embody it. That's why their innocence feels so real, because to them, in that moment, it is. But there's something even deeper happening here, something that connects to our oldest survival instincts. Human beings are social creatures. For thousands of years, being cast out from the group meant death, so we evolved to be incredibly attuned to social perception, to how others see us. Manipulators understand this instinctively. They know that the person who controls the narrative controls reality. So when confronted with their behavior, they don't just defend themselves, they launch a counter-narrative so compelling that it shifts the entire emotional landscape. They cry first, they claim hurt first, they position themselves as the wounded party before you even have a chance to process your own pain. And in doing so, they trigger something primal in those around them, the instinct to protect the vulnerable. We're wired to respond to displays of distress. When someone appears hurt or victimized, our mirror neurons fire, our empathy activates, and we instinctively want to comfort and defend them. Manipulators have learned, either through trial and error or through their own survival mechanisms developed in childhood, that innocence and vulnerability are shields. If they can make themselves appear small, hurt, and misunderstood, they can redirect attention away from their actions and onto their supposed suffering. It's a masterclass in emotional sleight of hand. While you're focused on their tears, you forget to ask why you were upset in the first place. There's also a particular kind of person who becomes exceptionally skilled at this. They're often people who grew up in environments where accountability was dangerous, where admitting fault meant punishment, abandonment, or shame. So they learned early that the truth was negotiable, that reality could be bent to avoid pain. They discovered that playing innocent wasn't just effective, it was survival. Over time, this strategy becomes so automatic that it's no longer a choice, it's a reflex. When threatened, they don't calculate and scheme, they simply become innocent. Their nervous system knows exactly what to do. The voice softens, the body language shifts, the story emerges fully formed. And because it's coming from a place of genuine psychological protection rather than conscious malice, it feels authentic, even to observers. What makes this so devastating for the people around them is the gaslighting effect. When someone responds to being confronted with such convincing innocence, it makes you doubt yourself. You start to think, maybe I overreacted, maybe I am too sensitive, maybe I'm remembering it wrong. This is where the real damage happens, not just in the original betrayal, but in the way your reality gets twisted until you can no longer trust your own perceptions. You become smaller, quieter, more uncertain. Meanwhile, the manipulator remains untouched, their innocence intact, their reputation preserved. They might even gain sympathy from others who witnessed the interaction, people who saw their hurt expression and assumed you were the aggressor. But here's what you need to understand. This pattern reveals itself over time. One instance of seeming innocence might be genuine. Twice could be coincidence. But when you notice that someone is always the victim, always the one who's been wronged, always innocent despite the trail of hurt people behind them, that's not bad luck. That's a pattern. That's a choice being made at some level, even if it's unconscious. Real innocence doesn't need constant defending. Real vulnerability doesn't weaponize itself. And people who are genuinely misunderstood don't seem to be misunderstood by everyone they encounter. The healthiest people among us have learned to sit with the discomfort of being wrong. They've developed the capacity to say, "I hurt you and I'm sorry," without making it about their intentions or their own pain. They can hold space for someone else's hurt without immediately centering themselves. They understand that impact matters more than intent, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is acknowledge harm without defending yourself. Manipulators cannot do this. Their entire psychological structure depends on maintaining the story of their innocence. To admit fault would be to crack the foundation of their self-concept. So they double down, they deflect, they perform hurt with such conviction that even they forget it's a performance. So where does this leave you? Maybe you're reading this and recognizing someone in your life. Maybe you're seeing a pattern you've been trying to ignore. Or maybe, and this is harder, you're seeing a part of yourself. Because here's the truth that makes all of us uncomfortable. We're all capable of this on some level. We all have moments where we prioritize our own innocence over someone else's pain.